Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Spider Does Things, the show. It's me, your good buddy Spider, doing things. This is the show. And I got a few things I'm going to talk about. It's been a little while since the last episode. I kind of stretch things out a little bit, keep things interesting. Don't bombard you with stuff that's kind of like, whatever. And I got a few things we're going to talk about that have been happening over the last several weeks since the last episode. Maybe has it been a month, maybe? Probably at least. My last episode was before the holidays. Nope, I'm wrong. It was New Year's. We had a New Year's episode, right? I lose track of everything. But how you doing? How's everybody feeling? How's everybody been? I know there's some stressful people. There's some stressed people out there. Maybe there are some stressful people as well, but there's some stressed people out there. And I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why you might be stressed a little bit later on in the show. I just want to tell you it's going to be all right. I know things are kind of, up and down, back and forth, sideways, kind of twisty-turny right now. I have a good feeling. I think things are going to work out. And it's not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be. After this episode, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people upset and telling me I'm out of touch or that I'm not paying attention or that whatever. I disagree. I pay a lot of attention. I keep my fingers on the pulse, as they say. So it's been winter, of course, here in Ohio. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's the first week of February. It's February 4th. February is a weird month to say. It's spelled February, right? February. February, but it's February. Although I've heard people say February. It's really weird for me to try to say it that way. February. I don't know. I feel like maybe I have a different accent. But it's February, as of this recording. Groundhog's Day was a day or so ago. I think it's the second. Wasn't the second Groundhog's Day? I never pay attention to Groundhog's Day because it's never been like, oh, it's Groundhog's Day, we better find out what happens. I guess this shouldn't have been a surprise to me. Exactly. It should not have been a surprise to me that there are multiple groundhogs that people look to in different states. There's the one in Punxsutawney, and he saw his shadow and he predicted more winter, right? But apparently there's one in Ohio. His name is Buckeye something. I don't know, Buckeye Bill or Buckeye Bob or I don't know. I don't know what his name is, Buckeye something or other. And apparently he has a claim to fame that he's more accurate than Phil. I saw there's actually statistics on this, believe it or not. You'll have to look them up to verify, because I saw them on a news article and I thought it was kind of silly. Phil has a correct prediction record of between like 35-40%, which is a groundhog, If you're putting your stock in a groundhog to predict the weather, you're probably better off doing something else. I don't have anything clever to say there. But apparently, the Ohio groundhog has a successful prediction rate of beginning of spring, end of winter, of 50 to 75%. Now, I don't know if that's just Ohio trying to, puff themselves up and making up fake statistics. I have no idea if anybody exhaustively tested these figures. I don't know. I didn't look that deep because it's not that deep for me. It's not a big deal. But there you go. Multiple states have their own groundhogs. There might be more. There might be more than 2. I bet there are. I didn't think about it. If your state has a groundhog, let me know. How accurate is he or she or they or whatever? Do people use groundhogs of different genders? I don't know. See, that's how little I actually am invested in the whole thing. That's how little I am invested in the whole thing. In some other news, a couple episodes ago, we talked about Dragon Age: The Veilguard, the latest episode of the Dragon Age franchise of video games by a company named BioWare, currently owned by EA, Electronic Arts. And apparently, between the Veilguard and Football Club 2025, which is EA's soccer sports game, between those two games combined were so bad. I don't mean necessarily that they were bad games, but they did so poorly on the market is really what I should say. Let me correct myself. They did so poorly on the market that they lost the company $500 million. Now, EA makes billions of dollars. It's probably not a huge dent in the overall capital, but it was big enough that the entire team that worked on Dragon Age: The Veilguard has either been laid off, were given severance if they'd resign, several of them did, or the few that were left, I guess that BioWare and EA thought worth keeping, have been reassigned to the next Mass Effect game, which who knows how that's going to do. But the studio, BioWare as a company, as a publisher, or a developer, has multiple studios. Like, they have a couple of different places in Canada, I believe. They have Edmonton. I think they have one in Alberta. I don't remember for sure. But their Edmonton studio, the one that was responsible for developing Dragon Age: The Veilguard, is now closed. The entire studio's gone. The people are all out in different directions. The studio's gone. $500 million. Which is definitely a shame. Now, I'm not going to get into... I got into the various controversies people had with it. Controversies when I did the episode about it. So I'm not going to get into that again. But it's just a sad end to a franchise that I enjoyed. It was kind of a push and pull franchise, though. Like, the first one was classic BioWare, kind of like their Knights of the Old Republic original games, very, very old school RPG. The second one was much more action-oriented, and it was very self-contained, and was not as sprawling, with a lot of less decision-making. Inquisition was kind of a compromise between both. It wasn't perfect, but it kind of got back to the roots a little bit. I haven't played the new one yet, and I've pretty much resolved that I'm not going to buy it. Unless it hits like a bargain basement kind of sale, like less than $10. Is it worth more than that? I don't know. I'm not going to play it until then, and that's a personal choice, and maybe that's disrespectful of me, but of what I've seen about it, the controversy, sorry, having some slurs here, controversy notwithstanding, I didn't like things that I saw. I didn't like the color palette that they used for it compared to the previous ones. I didn't like the way that certain things were portrayed. I didn't like a lot of the various things that I saw from various gameplay videos, tuning out, like I said, various controversial things that people wanted to discuss. If I take that out of the equation, the game itself still doesn't stand up as a game that I was willing to pay full price for, or even half price. It's a AAA game, so it's commands like $70 when it's full price, and right now it's on my console on Xbox. It is currently like $42 on sale. So we'll see. I'm not going to play it till then, so I don't have any direct experience for it. So I'm not going to slam it and say that it's bad. I've seen things that are troubling, and that's where I'm at. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on a game that I'm not sure I'm actually going to like, because I used to just pre-order stuff real quick. When stuff looked good, I'd be like, oh yeah, that looks awesome, I'm going to pre-order that. And I was burned twice in a row with Destiny. Very, very disappointed with the way the first Destiny game ended up. So much so that I've resolved never to buy another Bungie product ever again. I never did pick up Destiny 2, even if it is free to play through Xbox. I'm not doing it. And Aliens Colonial Marines, which I had such high expectations for, and it was not a good game. Some parts were fun, but very little of it was good. I pre-ordered that, and those I don't often pre-order much else. I've pre-ordered the new Dead Space remake. I did that, and that fulfilled my expectations. I pre-ordered Dead Island 2, and that was a great game, so I haven't sworn off pre-ordering completely, but unless I've already resolved that it looks like it's something I'm going to like, I'm not going to do it. So that's the update on what's going on with Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is a shame. It's too bad. BioWare made a lot of good games that I really enjoyed, and now they don't. So that's how that goes. So let's move on to the first topic of the evening. This cat's going to sit here and cry about it, but I'm not interested. He's a big fatty. Let's talk about WWE stuff, because we always have to have some kind of wrestling stuff at some point. I watched a couple days ago, as of this recording, the 2025 Royal Rumble was just a couple of days ago. And it was pretty good, for the most part. I had stuff that I didn't really care for, but I enjoyed it, mostly. The highlights of this year were actually the two Royal Rumble matches themselves, which were the 30-man over-the-top battle royal, where everybody filters in one at a time and slowly builds up, and you got to get everybody over the ropes and that kind of thing. If you're not familiar with pro wrestling stuff and you don't know about that match, you're going to be like, whatever, I'm going to skip ahead, see if he talks about anything I like. But if you're into that, let's have a little talk about it. Historically, during the Vince years, which was, was most of WWE's existence, Royal Rumble went in two directions. Early on in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a thing where they would just have the entire roster in there just to show off and to do their thing, and everybody was in there, all the superstars, and you'd have a couple of little story things like, oh, these two have a rivalry, we'll see how they do, and then somebody would win and go on to WrestleMania, usually a crowd favorite, or somebody that Vince wanted to push to irritate people, like a big villain character, right? Then it would go in the other direction, which was more common from the 2000s on, where you'd have a lot of surprise appearances from people who either had nothing to do with wrestling or who really had no business being in a match like that, because there was no way they were going to make any headway, and they were thrown in for comedy relief. And so it got to be kind of a goofy match, punctuated with moments of, oh, that's pretty good. Like one year they had Drew Carey in the Royal Rumble, and then they had Pat McAfee climb in and then climb out one year, which was kind of funny, but still, same comedy relief. And this year they didn't have any of that. They had none of that. Even the characters, who were generally a little bit on the goofy side as far as their gimmicks, did well. They played up their gimmick. They worked with the other competitors, and everything made sense, which was refreshing. And not only the men's Royal Rumble, but the women's Royal Rumble. And I've said before that a lot of times I think the WWE neglects to train their women wrestlers as well, because they have a lot of very talented lady wrestlers, extremely talented lady wrestlers. But I've seen them all have really bad matches because it was obvious they didn't get enough practice. You know, pulling back the curtain a little bit, you know, wrestling is it's not fake per se. Okay, let's not say that. It is choreographed to a point. Not like every single move and every single action that you do, but it is choreographed to a point where, okay, we've got these particular things that have to happen. You have to give somebody this move. They have to do this. There has to be this person winning. This is how the match has to end, right? And there's a little bit of wiggle room in between if the two people involved are good at improvisation. Not everybody is, and sometimes it falls really, really short. But and it seems like always that the women's matches usually tend to get less attention to detail than the men's. So they look sloppier. They look like they haven't been... They look like they're not as good. But they are. I know many of the ladies, I've seen them have fantastic matches, depending on who you pair them with. And it all depends on who is more serious than who. And who's just there, you know, making a paycheck. But this Royal Rumble, the ladies' Royal Rumble, was on point. They all did really well. There was some stuff that looked messy, but you get that all the time. With that many people in the ring, you're going to get stuff that's going to look kind of like, eh. They had a couple of surprises. Trish Stratus showed up to give it a little bit of legend boost. I mean, some people, you know, they're not in there to win. They're in there because people know them. They're a veteran. They're a Hall of Famer. They're there to kind of get attention and to be like, yeah, I can still hang with the young ladies and stuff like that, right? So she was in and she did some stuff. Jordynne Grace from TNA was there, and Jordynne Grace apparently is no longer in TNA. She had her last match over there, so the fact that she was in the Rumble now after she's left TNA points to the fact that she's probably going to be a member of the developmental team, which is NXT. There's a lot of three-letter names in the wrestling business. TNA, NXT, WWE, AEW, all those things, right? So you got to kind of follow along. But Jordynne Grace was there. She was in last year. So this is the second year in a row she's been in a Royal Rumble. And she's definitely probably going to be part of the overall WWE umbrella in the future. Very near future. Also was a return that I did not expect, because everybody said it wasn't going to happen. Alexa Bliss came back. Now, she last had a storyline with Bray Wyatt, who passed away a year or two ago. 2 years ago, maybe. I don't remember the exact date. He had a heart condition, a very rare, I guess, heart condition that was exacerbated by the virus, and it unfortunately took care of him. And so she hasn't really been around since then. She's been out since 2003. And she came back, and she was in good form. She pulled off some good stuff. And I'm looking forward to them using her some more and seeing what direction she goes. Also was returning was Charlotte Flair off of injury. She's been away for maybe a year, 2 years as well. Something like that. It's been a while. And she won. She won the Women's Royal Rumble, which is kind of controversial for people. A lot of people were kind of like, oh, she's been there before. This was the opportunity for one of the younger, newer girls to get their shot. But you never know. I'm trusting the process with WWE creative stuff right now. I like the direction they've gone on the whole with McMahon being out of the picture. Everything seems to be a bit more serious. Everything's a bit more making sense. It's a little less goofy. It's a little less blatantly offensive. I like the direction it's going, and so I'm willing to trust the process and see how it goes. So Charlotte Flair won the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble. If you haven't seen it yet, sorry, spoiler alert, I guess. It's on Peacock, the Peacock app. You can watch it now if you have that for free. They had a tag team match between the Motor City Machine Guns. That's a tongue twister a little bit. Who are one of the bigger tag teams in the sport right now, and WWE picked them up. Between them and DIY, who's Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, they were good dudes, and now they're bad dudes, to keep it simple for everybody. And they're the champions. And Motor City Machine Guns, it looked like they might pull it out, and then the Street Profits, another team who's kind of mad at both of those teams, came out and attacked them. So then when DIY won and retained their title, then Street Profits attacked them as well, attacked everybody, so they're on kind of a revenge thing. They want their shot, and they didn't want the title to change hands because they wanted to defeat the people that have it now. So, again, if you haven't been watching pro wrestling, you won't know about these storylines and things. You won't know the motivations of most of these people, so that's okay. It's okay. They had the men's Royal Rumble, which was pretty good too, because there's so many people. In the women's division, there's kind of some people that aren't involved in a lot of storylines because they have a lot of ladies, and not everybody is involved in something with a rivalry with someone. So a lot of them were just kind of there duking it out. It was still a good match, but it wasn't as personally invested, right? The men's one, almost the entire roster that went in there had a personal stake. Every single person, for the most part, had a reason to be in there. A couple of highlights from there. They had the streamer IShowSpeed, who's a trash individual, by the way, and I'm not going to feel bad saying that on this show here. IShowSpeed is a trash streamer. He's popular, makes more money than I do, so that's fine. It's not a jealousy thing because I'm never going to get to that level and I don't care. Like Logan Paul. I don't like Logan Paul at all. Logan Paul is a trash person in real life. He's very talented as a wrestler. He's making a ton more money than I am. So obviously he's doing something right, but he, in my mind, is a trash person. So, because of things that he's done. But IShowSpeed is in that same category. He got thrown in as like their celebrity guest kind of thing, and he legitimately got beat up pretty good. So that was, as much as I didn't want to see him anywhere near anything that I enjoyed, I did like seeing him get destroyed. Even if it was in pro wrestling. So he was in there. AJ Styles made his surprising return. There was no rumblings that he was going to be back. Everybody kind of figured he was retired from WWE. He'd been doing a couple matches in Japan and in Mexico, just little side things, and nobody really expected to see him But he's back, and apparently he's back in the fold for sure because he's going to be on Monday Night Raw from here on out. He wasn't on this past one. They teased that he was going to be. Not on the episode, but they teased that he was going to be on the show in the long run. But he wasn't there this last time. Because as of this recording, I've seen the next episode of Raw. Which I'm not really going to get into. But, yeah, AJ Styles is going to be a fixture again. And he looks in better shape than he had. He had been going through a period where he came back from injury and he just looked top heavy for a guy. Like his pecs and his shoulders and everything looked like he'd been just working them out much more to the expense of his lower body. And he just didn't move as quickly or as easily as he did, and I think it's because he had too much going on. And now he looks a little leaner, he looks a little bit more athletic, a little more, naturally muscular, and I think it's going to work out better for him. He's more talented as kind of a leaner guy rather than the I'm a super tough guy. Also, they had Joe Hendry show up, which was kind of a thing that most people expected. Joe Hendry is a really popular guy in NXT and TNA right now. He's mostly from TNA. He's not in NXT, but he's done some things back and forth. He's got a really catchy theme song and a really catchy gimmick, and he's really popular. And he did well for his first Rumble as a guest. He's currently the TNA champion, I believe. So it was a good bit of cross-promotion there. If nobody has heard yet, TNA and WWE have a formal working relationship now. WWE doesn't own TNA, but I'm sure they've got significant amounts of money going back and forth. So they have a legitimate pipeline back and forth between their wrestlers, mostly between NXT and TNA, for developmental purposes. So that'll be interesting to watch. But, of course, John Cena was in it. He's on his retirement tour. He's trying to get one last big main event match at WrestleMania, so he thought he'd try to win the Rumble. He did not. He was the second to the last person, and he was eliminated by Jey Uso, who is the men's 2025 Royal Rumble winner, Jey Uso. Chances are he's going to target Gunther, who's the World Heavyweight Champion. Chances are they're going to go battle it out for that at WrestleMania. And but it's overall, it was good, so go back and watch it if you haven't. The last match was, because it was just 4 things. It was those 2 big things, plus the tag match, plus Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens in a ladder match, which was... It was for storyline purposes. They have this blood feud going on right now, and it was kind of boring, to be honest. Ladder matches these days to me are kind of boring because it's the same formula. You just hit each other a bunch of times with the ladders. You do moves on the ladders. You smack each other. I wasn't real impressed with it, to be honest. But that's more of a personal preference, I think, than anything else. If you like that kind of stuff, you might really enjoy it. I didn't. I thought it was boring. But again, that's personal preference. I don't care for the no rules, no disqualification, weapon specific kind of matches. I think they're played out. I think I'd rather see good wrestling. Excuse me. So that was it. Cody Rhodes won that. So he's back to being undisputed champion, and Kevin Owens lost his belt that he stole. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll have to watch older episodes of Raw because there's a long backstory to that. And overall, it was a good show. It was a good show. I really enjoyed it, and I invite everybody else to, if you have the Peacock app, to go ahead and punch it up and let me know what you think about it. There's a lot of different opinions about the 2 Royal Rumble matches. about who people think should have won and who deserved a shot, and et cetera, et cetera. So weigh in on that discussion. And then there's going to be a couple shows before WrestleMania. You got Elimination Chamber. I don't remember when that is. You've got Clash in Paris, apparently, which is probably a throwaway. It's mostly for like minor feud stuff. And then maybe Crown Jewel. I don't know. I don't remember when Crown Jewel is. That's in Saudi Arabia, and I skipped last year, so I didn't watch it. Not too interested, for various reasons. But now that we've got that out of the way, let's hit the big target. Let's talk about Trump. I'm going to get a lot of people from a lot of different directions who are probably going to disagree with me on a lot of different things, whether you're for him or against him. I'm sure I'm going to find a way to offend many of you. And that's okay. These are all just my opinions. You can take them for what they are. If you're listening to the show, you have at least some passing interest in what I have to say. Right? I don't think I'm that popular for people to tune in for hate clicks. Just to tune in so that they can be like, listen to this doofus talking about this BS. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But let's plow on. Let's find out. So Trump, he's president of the United States right now. He won the election. We've talked about that on a previous episode. And I gotta say first, there's been a lot of people who have been saying things like, I'm leaving this social media, I'm leaving that social media, I'm leaving this because for my mental health I can't, whatever. There are ways. Let's take Facebook for an example, okay? There are ways where you can set your various privacy settings, and you can unfollow people, and you can block people, and you can do a lot of stuff to keep your sphere of things that you want to see away from things you don't want to see. You can do that with Facebook. You can do that with Twitter. You can do that with Blue Sky. You can do that with pretty much any of them, okay? You never really have to leave social media unless, of course, you are friends or family with people who are always going to be spouting stuff from the other side. And you have a couple of ways to deal with that rather than leaving the platform. You can either make them not your friend. You can unfriend, unfollow, etc. If you're that invested, okay? You can do that. Or you can try to engage them in conversation and discuss your issues with each other. If they're a reasonable person, then they'll be reasonable and they'll be open to talking about it. You might not change their mind and they might not change yours, but if you come to a point where you just say, you know, we're just not going to talk about it with each other, we're just going to stay friends, that's good too. The bottom line is, get over it. I know, that's what's going to make people angry. Get over it. I'll tell you, I did not at all like Joe Biden. Didn't like him. Didn't like a lot of the stuff that he wanted to do and things that he did during his time in the office. But I have not unfriended or unfollowed or avoided a single person that I know who voted for Joe Biden. Either time. I have not decided that any of these people are my enemy. I've never said that, hey, if you voted for so-and-so, you're dead to me. You're... Brr. And just to clear the air, I didn't vote for Trump. Okay? I did not. I'm not saying this as a person who's a defender of Trump or as a Trump guy or anything, because I'm not. I'm not a Biden guy. I'm not a Trump guy. You can decide where you think my vote went in between all that. But it wasn't for those guys. It wasn't for Kamala. It wasn't for any of them. Kamala was a goof. Come on now. Let's be serious. Kamala was a goof. There was no way. Okay? There was no way. Let's not delude ourselves and try to pretend that there was a chance there. And that's not a Trump defense. That's just facing reality. Okay? So, yes, Trump won the election. Get over it. If you're really stuck on this thing where you have to resist and fight back, get involved in local government. Get involved in your neighborhoods. Don't go out just protesting all the time, because that doesn't do anything. Yes, your right to protest is fully protected. By all means. I'm not going to tell you that it isn't. I'm just going to tell you you're wasting your time, because you are. You're wasting your time. If you want things to be different, what you needed to do is make sure you had stronger local leaders. And make sure those leaders voted for stronger government people in Congress. Because, if you'll notice, in the 2025 election, Trump won both the popular vote and the Electoral College. A lot of people say, oh, we'll abolish the Electoral College, blah, blah, blah. Trump still would have won. So you need one to balance out the other if you have somebody who's popular but you don't really want there, right? That's where Congress would have come in. Because not only did the popular vote put Trump in there, but the Electoral College, which is based on the representatives that you put into Congress, that's their votes. If you didn't want them voting for Trump, you needed to vote in stronger people who were going to vote for somebody else. That's a real simplified way of saying it. There's a couple other variables involved there. But that's the start. That's where you want to focus your attention. You want to focus your attention on governors and senators and representatives. You do that, you clinch the presidency. Okay? That's how that works. Because Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, lost the Electoral College. Right? So, get involved. Get involved and do things if you feel that strongly about it. I'm not going to tell people, get out and resist and whatever, because I'm in my wait-and-see period. Okay? I'm a pragmatic person. I waited to see what would happen with the Biden stuff, and it just got worse and worse and worse as the 4 years went on. I am nowhere near in a better position than I was previously. And that's not to say that I was flush with resources and doing very well for myself during the Trump stuff. Because as soon as Trump went in there, it wasn't a year or two in when we had the virus stuff happen, and that took over everything. So, and that sucked. I'm not going to say anything about, that sucked. That set things back for everybody. Previous to that, a lot of things that happened during Obama, it caused personal issues for my finances. I wasn't a big investor, I wasn't a big thing, but various taxable things went up. Various things changed, various laws twisted. It wasn't a great time. And it's still not a great time. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to let Trump cook and see what happens. And if you really don't want to do that, by all means, get with your local government and work out stuff that you can do to change local laws and whatnot. Because that's where your energy should be. Not out protesting, not out posting memes and pretending you're in some hackers group, which we're going to get to in a minute. If you want to make a difference, you got to work in the areas that are going to make a difference. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I know a lot of people are going to disagree. They're going to say things are rigged and this and that. But you know what? That's what the other side said last time. It's exactly what the other side said last time. So if you're going to go for the rigged argument, I don't know what to tell you. It's all rigged, to be honest. Like it always is. There's always one side or the other rigging it in favor of one side or the other. That's how it works. That's politics. The trick is to make the rigging less effective by making sure that you have something to do with the process. Okay? That's all I'm saying. So that brings me to the dumbassery point of the show. If you thought the last part, oh, you're just being an idiot, this is the dumbassery portion. And not on my part, okay? I think a lot of people will agree with me on this. One of the big unfortunate things that's popped up with Trump getting in office. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, there's a lot of bad things that popped up with Trump in office, so I'll make a list. Easy there, cowboy. Okay? Tamp it down. Tamp it down just a little. One of the things that, unfortunately, from where I'm sitting, has popped up is the return of the Q stuff. And I'm just... Can you hear my sigh of disgust? Can you hear the sounds of derision coming out of my mouth? Q. The whole... Where do I even start? The entire Q situation is a troll. If you believe in any sort of Q propaganda, you are being trolled. And maybe you like being trolled. Maybe you believe the troll. Please stop. Come on. It's so deeply embedded now that every single speech that any of Trump's people give, anything they post on social media, anything they say in the news, becomes a coded message to the Q followers, to the anons, the anonymous people, because everybody thinks that because they're spreading memes and spreading stories and talking on Reddit that they're an anonymous, that they're a part of this elite hacker group that spans the globe. You're not. Okay? You aren't. You're just a goofball. Okay? Please stop being a goofball and resume being a normal, rational human being. The aviation things that have been going wrong lately. The helicopter that crashed into the plane, very tragic. The air ambulance in Philadelphia that crashed, again, very tragic. The Q people are saying that these are taking out individuals who are guilty of terrible crimes against humanity and things. And I'm just like, where do you people come up with this stuff? Where do you come up with it? It's absolutely ridiculous, with no evidence of any kind. Somebody... I saw a post from somebody where they said they had a picture of wreckage from the air ambulance, I believe, maybe, or from the plane that crashed in the helicopter. Don't remember which one, but it was like a plane that was registered to Mexico or a South American country, something like that. I don't know how true that is. I didn't follow up on it because what they were presenting was absolutely ridiculous. But they showed part of the wing or the tail, and it had the registry code. It was like XO UCI, XO-UCI, and these goofballs said that was code for Fauci, for Dr. Fauci, the virus guy. And that it was somehow tied to him, and part of the reason he was losing his security detail through the Trump administration. No evidence, just, oh, this looks a little bit like that, so obviously they're connected and they're the same. Are you kidding me? They said during the first Trump term that he was going to start rounding up guilty celebrities and people and sending them to Guantanamo Bay and all this other stuff, and there was going to be military tribunals and stuff like that. None of that happened. Not a single bit of it happened. Then they said, when the virus hit, they said that every celebrity who talked about, oh yeah, I've tested positive for whatever, I'm going to be isolating, they said that was code for people who were under house arrest because of some crime. Never happened, because all those people are still out doing their thing now. They did their virus time, they're out, they're in movies, they're on shows, they're doing whatever. Nobody was arrested. Nobody had military tribunals. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't even begin to start with the Q stuff, because when it first started, people started talking about it. I was like, oh, all right, well, this is interesting. Let's see what this is all about. It started with that pizza parlor thing, which started out like almost in a weird way, like it could have been plausible. Like, okay, there's some weird connections going on here. And then from there, it just spiraled into this ever-reaching octopus of everything that happens in the world, in United States politics, is involved in this Q prophecy kind of thing. And oh my goodness, it's a new version of the old Illuminati kind of thing, where everything that happens is connected to the worldwide conspiracy. This is the latest version of the worldwide conspiracy, the Q stuff. And it's some of that stuff back in the day kind of makes sense. You could kind of see some connections there, and you could find, be like, all right, yeah, I see how that would work. I see how this would work. I don't get how this is connected, but hey, you know what? This kind of makes some sense. There's a shadowy, behind-the-scenes government doing things, okay. But the Q stuff just goes off into crazy town. It just goes off, and all these people who share stuff about it, who pass the memes around, who pass the stories around, they think they're part of it. They think that they're these digital warriors on the internet with their Reddit posts and their memes. They think that they're part of this shadowy war against the government. And they're crazy. They're crazy people. Like, there's no nice way of saying it. They're crazy. The Q stuff is crazy. Please stop. Please stop. I like a good shadow government style conspiracy as much as the next person who's not 100% into whatever mainstream media is saying. But I'm not. I can't. I can't. Just don't. Stop. It's so funny. And these people are willing to do. They're willing to harass people. They're willing to post private information like people's addresses and phone numbers and emails and saying, yeah, you know what, this person's involved in the global conspiracy. You should go talk to them and harass them. It's happening in my town. In my town, there's at least one person. At least one. I know who it is. They've got a criminal record. You know, they're already on the radar, so I don't really have to do much about it. I'm certain local police are going to have to pick them up again for threatening and for whatever. They go on a rampage daily. Post after post after post, tagging the local police pages on social media saying, hey, you know what, maybe you should look into this. You should look into this. Why haven't you investigated this trafficking ring of whatever? And they have no evidence of any kind. They have no evidence, and they're constantly badgering and sending other people to badger. It's just ridiculous. It makes no sense. Please stop. Like, for real. Just like I told the other people who are constantly upset about every single Trump thing. Get over it. Get over it. Oh, the crazies are on both sides, and I'm just sitting here in the middle, just like, oh, why can't I just not? Why can't we just not put in people who will make sure the government functions and then leaves us alone? Because that's all I want. I want government to function and to leave me alone. That's 100% where my political base is. I don't want to force people to acknowledge different things. I don't want people to be forced to acknowledge whatever hot button issues here. I don't want people to be forced to ignore it. I don't want people to be forced into anything. I just want the government to take care of the country and leave me alone. And that's it. And there's people on both sides who want so much and who are just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I will say the mental health in this country has just spiraled down the toilet in the last 10, 15 years. And maybe it was always kind of on the edge there. Maybe it was always kind of teetering there, only kept in check because of social responsibility and medication and things. And as those things are kind of getting pushed around and shoved aside, and people are just letting loose, and it's not helping. It's not helping. Get over it. Get over it. Move on. Move on. Oh, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to move on from this show because I've just gotten pretty much to the end. I've said my piece about it. Q, come on. Q. It's so dumb. It's just dumb. It's dumb. So I'm going to move on along here. I'm a few minutes short of an hour, and that's okay. I don't mind. I like to fit a relatively flexible timeline, up to an hour generally with these shows. What do we got coming up in the near future? I'm still doing game streams, of course. Twitch.tv/DMGRGN. Still doing that every single night. Roughly between 10:30 and midnight, usually around 11-ish, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely tune in. I'm going to announce it here for the first time for everybody. I've just hit 50,000 views on YouTube. I'm not, YouTube isn't life, of course. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a guy that streams my stuff to YouTube. But that's a pretty good accomplishment for somebody who's small time, who doesn't have a big, huge investor base and doesn't rage on stream all the time. Because I don't do the kind of stuff that the rage bait and things that people do to get famous on YouTube. I just put out my content and hope for the best. So feel free to watch on Twitch, or when it gets sent to YouTube after the fact, which it does every night, usually within an hour or two after I've finished. YouTube.com// at Spider Does Things. Look for me on YouTube, Spider Does Things. Subscribe, watch some videos, drop some likes. All of these episodes eventually find their way to YouTube as well. This episode is going to be on Spotify relatively soon, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, etc. All the different places that you can find me. And you can listen for free. Always look for the LTATM hashtag. That leads to me. Let's talk about the magic. Let's talk about the madness. Let's talk about the music. All of that belongs to me. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a liar. To put it plain and simple. There are some people out there who have Let's Talk About the Movies, and they're more than welcome to have that. By all means. LTATM is not owned by a single person. But I'm the most prolific user of the hashtag, and I'm going to stand by that. So if you put that in, you'll find me. You'll probably find a bunch of other weird things. Maybe some stuff out of Tacoma that's not good. Somebody who sounds like they're drunk. Which is funny, because I usually am drinking. And I don't sound drunk. Maybe you think I do. I don't think I do. But certain other people from Tacoma have a terrible slur. I think they're totally drunk. Oh no, that might be slander. They might try to sue me, and they're going to fail. Anyway, if you don't know what any of that's all about, that's cool. It's not important. But tune in soon for another episode of this. And in the meantime, watch my content on YouTube. Like I said, Spider Does Things on YouTube. Subscribe, watch some videos. Subscribe, watch some videos, and drop some likes. And maybe I won't do that voice anymore, because it's probably terrible. And stop listening to Q nonsense. Get over it. It's trash. Okay? Good night.